Hey, it's your Open Source Advocate, and I'm back with another video. Now you might notice something a little different about my screen. First of all, it looks like I'm running Windows 10, which I am, but I'm running it in VirtualBox. This week I want to show you something really cool. It's something that I've been looking for, and a lot of desktop support folks have been looking for a long time. So if you work in a company where you have access to the machines all the time, you're going to want more of an RMM, which is Remote Machine Management Solution. So that's one where you can register the machines and you always have some kind of access to them no matter what. And if you're looking for a really great open source RMM, then you want to look at MeshCentral. I have a video out there for MeshCentral, so I'll link it down in the description. I'll try to put a card up here in the upper right so that you can click there as well if you want to see something about MeshCentral. It's really amazing. It's super easy to run. It's really easy to keep it running as well. So if you're running a Linux server, whether you're running Windows, it doesn't matter. It's cross-platform, and it does cross-platform clients for Linux, Windows, and Mac. So that's really cool. So MeshCentral, definitely something you want to look at. But today I want to talk about one where I run across this quite a bit. So I have a full-time job as a product manager for a pretty big company. But I also do side work for people where I do desktop support, I guess is the best way to put it. So I work on Macs, I work on Windows PCs, I work on Linux, it doesn't matter. And basically a lot of times they call me and they have an issue, but it's not really something where I need to go get their machine or where I have to go over to their house or where they need to bring it to me or anything. It's really something where I could help them remotely, which is great because the tool we're going to talk about today is literally called, or so many others that are out there. They're really great tools, they're amazing tools. But if you're using them professionally and you're being honest about your professional use, then you have to pay quite a bit of money to use those things, and it can get pretty costly. And I do this part-time. It's not something where I do it a lot. I get maybe a call a week, sometimes a call a month, sometimes they just stack up and I get 5 calls in a week. It just depends. I don't do this for tons of people. It's not my main source of income. I do it because I like it, and I work with the people that I enjoy working with who know what it's about whenever I'm helping them with desktop stuff. So I've been looking for a solution that was open source and that I could host myself, which is great. So I found one, and somebody over at Reddit on the self-hosted site pointed me to it, which was great because I actually made a post saying I was looking for developers who would be interested in building something like this. I just didn't realize this was out there, and it's been out there for a few years, which shocks me because I've seen posts on Reddit about people wanting to do this. That's how I found MeshCentral. That's how I found several others that I've tried. So yeah, I'm really kind of excited about this one. So I'm going to minimize this down for just a minute. It's in full screen mode because I want to get to the background here, desktop. So I want to show you the software right off the bat here. So I'm going to open up my browser. It should be here. Yes. So I'm going to kind of not make it full screen. And I'm going to go to this URL that I've created, and we're going to go through the install process after I show you this. But this is just my kind of test bed, you know, where I'm testing things as I'm getting ready for you guys. So you can see here, it's a fairly minimal looking website, but that's okay. This is free, it's self-hosted. This is something for really me to see, or for me to send a client to the download page, and we'll go through that. So I'm going to log in here, and I've got my login credentials ready to go, and of course strong password, and you can set up 2-factor authentication on this with an authentication app, which is awesome. So I'm going to log in. I'm going to tell it don't save, and right off the bat you don't see anything here because I don't have any connections going or anything like that. But you can invite other members to this to have logins. You can make them admins or not admins, but the first person who signs up is by default an admin. So it's a very simple system to get logged into and set up. So we're here kind of on the home screen. There's also downloads, and we'll go through that. Then there's remote control. So there's a couple of pieces to this. Now you can go to a console and you can get the console prompt. I'm not going to do that right now, but you can. First I want to kind of show you this stuff over here, which is with the account information. So I'm going to go to account. So right off the bat you can kind of see my info here. Got my phone number, got my email. So this is all information that would be for my business. And then next is passwords. If you need to reset your password, you can do that. And then you have options, so you can set this to light or dark mode. I'll kind of show you dark mode here real quick. Let's just look at what dark mode looks like. There you go, there's dark mode. So if you prefer dark mode, you can do that. I think light mode's just fine for this video. And I'm actually going to just increase this a little bit. I'm afraid it's going to be a little bit hard for people to see. It's fine for me, but just in case, if you're looking at it on your phone, I kind of want you to get a good feel. So here for the console prompt, you can actually change what you want your console prompt to be. So if you want, you know, $, dash that, whatever, you can set that. It doesn't matter. So web shortcut is /web. The PowerShell prompt is PS core or /PS core. Windows PowerShell shortcut is WinPS or Windows PowerShell. Command is /command, and so on. So /bash for bash. So you can change those things if you want to. Moving on down is organization information, so you can kind of set up what you want for your organization. Here you can add device groups, so you can set this for unattended access, but you can also send this thing out like you do with Anydesk and have somebody let you connect remotely to them, which is kind of awesome. I think that's a really cool thing. So I've set up a couple of groups here. I haven't added any devices to my groups yet, but I've set up a couple of groups. And then you can see your users, and you can kind of control your users down here. And then, of course, you can send out invites. Now, you need to go set up the email stuff first, so the invite will get sent to the person in their email. But we'll get there. So there is API access as well that's been built in. So basically, the token name that you want for your API, so you can just say create a token. And it's going to generate an API token, I believe. Maybe we can just give it a name. I'm sorry, I'm not thinking. So, remote route me home. There we go. Now it's giving me some API tokens, so I can go use these tokens in other places for API access. So it's okay if you see all these things, by the way. I'm going to destroy this droplet once I'm done with the video, so it's not going to be there anymore. You're free to try the URL. It's not going to take you anywhere, but feel free. So type here is going to be, so we have server logs, so you can just kind of filter this down to see information, error, debug, warning. So if I go to error, I can say update, and you can see there was an error here, so this property cannot be set. So you can see some different things about your server and what's going on, and this could be some good debug information for somebody who's working on this project. Now I'm going to tell you out of the gate, the developer who made this, while it is awesome, he's been working on it for a few years. He didn't get anybody else to really help him with it, from what I gather. There's an email on GitHub, and I'll link to that site as well. Or not an email, but a message on GitHub. He's just kind of got burnout. He's not really wanting to work on this anymore. So I've forked this project. I have sent him a message. I don't know if he's going to respond. He may just be fed up with it. Who knows? I'm sure he gets thousands of messages from people who, you know, too little too late want to help. I didn't know about the project. I'm not that great of a developer, but I'd be happy to help in some way. So maybe he'll come back to it. But this is still awesome, and it still works. And the last time it was updated was like literally this month in May of 2020. So it's a good thing to get set up and start using today at least. So server logs, okay, server config. So this is where you're going to set up server information, your email information. So you can say require HTTPS. Now I set that up whenever we did the certbot stuff as it went through there, so it automatically forwards you to HTTPS. But you can set it here as well. And he's got a nice script that really just does the whole setup, everything like that. It just prompts you for a couple of bits of information. So that's what we'll go through on the setup side. So require two-factor authentication. So again, I told you there's two factors. So you can say here, require it. You can set up your SMTP information for your email here. And I'll go through this when I do the full setup, but I want you to kind of see what all's here and what's available. So trusted URLs, if you have to have cores kind of stuff for your APIs or things like that that you may build out, if you were going to do something like that, then this is where you would add that information. You can use HSTS. I'm not going to do that, but that's kind of a strict protocol basically for HTTPS and stuff like that. We do want WebRTC because that's how it communicates back and forth between machines. Then there's connection strings that you get for your different database information that you'll need. And then server admin. So again, as you add people, you can make them an admin, or you can take them away from being an admin. So you can also add people to being a server admin that weren't an admin to start with. All right, I'm going to go back up, and we're going to go to two-factor authentication. So right here, you can add your two-factor app, and again, I'll do that when we go through the setup on the new server that we're going to get. And then finally, personal data. So you can download your personal data or delete it. If you delete it, it's gone. There's no getting it back. It's not a soft delete. He's telling you right here, it's a hard delete. It's done. So that's pretty cool. So we're going to go over here to, so really what I did was I set up this server, and then I went into Windows over here, and I just went to the same URL. So in a Windows machine, I went over here to this URL, and I'm doing Windows just because I feel like that, you know, being the most popular desktop, that's the one you're going to run across, so it pays to have that available. So now I want to go to remote.routemehome, so you can see I've already been there. And of course, I would tell a person who I'm like, hey, I need a remote into your machine. I'd say, go to this address, and I'd send it to them in a text message, or I'd tell them how to type it in. And I'd say, go to the download link. Okay. And you tell them, all right, I want you to find the one that says Windows 64-bit, and you're going to just click on the executable, and you're going to download that guy. So when they click, it comes up. It says, do you want to download? You hit save. Now I've already done this, so it's already done. Once they've downloaded it, just tell them double-click it and install it. Now, there's resident agents, I believe, that you can run so that you can just keep this thing always going. Then you've got your Linux, your Linux one here. So you can run a Linux download, and you can do a Windows 32-bit. So if you've still got 32-bit people out there, you can run them as well. So this thing downloads, and once it downloads, then you tell them, okay, run it. It's going to run an installer, and it's going to do a few things. Now, when I ran the installer, I got a little error. So I'll remove it from this Windows, or I'll go back to another snapshot, and we'll do that again as well when we go through the setup. I just kind of want to show you how this works out of the gate. So I'm going to go to remotely, if I can find it again. Yeah, remotely desktop. I think that's the one I want. Yeah, so we're going to say open. Let's make sure it opens the one we think here. Yes, so it'll prompt them, and this is what you want, right? You want something that's going to prompt them and say, hey, somebody's going to be trying to access your system. So it's going to load resources. Maybe we'll get the error right here while it's doing this. Let's find out. So the first time it goes through a bunch of installation and things, and it popped up an error. This time it didn't do it. That's great. Now, what happened was the first time I came in, it asks for a URL, and that again is your website's URL. So in my case, it would be remote.routemehome.org. So they type that in, and it's got a little box that they can't, get rid of till they type it in. So you tell them type that in, and then hit OK. When they do that, then it goes and hits your website, and it says, give me an ID. So this is their ID, and now they give you that ID, and you can start a session. So I'm going to go back. So we're looking at Windows. I'm going to go back to the browser, and this time I'm going to go to Remote Control. So here I'm just going to put in my name, just so they know who they're getting connected to with, and I'm going to put in that number that they give me. So I'm trying to remember it here: 099-323-599, I believe. Now don't push, don't put the little hyphens, because if you do, it messes up. So it's hyphens on their screen, no hyphens on your screen. You're going to hit connect. Session ID not valid. Let me check it. Oh, it changed it on me. Okay, so it changes every time it starts. So 909-609-1145. So 909-609-145. All right, let's try this again. If I do the right one, it helps. 900-609-145. Look at that, third time's a charm. Okay, so it tells me, hey, I'm trying to connect. Now you notice it doesn't connect right away. I don't just get direct access. It prompts up, and it prompts the user, it prompts your client, hey, this person wants to access your machine. And if you look, it puts my name right there. So they're like, yeah, that's who I expected. And then it says, hey, here's Brian. Brian's looking at your machine. And if you go back over here, you'll see I'm actually looking at their machine. So there's their machine, here's the browser. So now I'm up and running. I've got access. So I'm gonna move this just to the right a little bit. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to drag this window over in the browser, and you see it comes over in the background. So I'm actually controlling the screen for the user. I can go and open up the start menu. I can type in CMD, and it says I'm looking for CMD, and it doesn't find it because it's freaking Windows. Why would it? Run. There we go. So we type run, we get the run prompt. We can click it. Now we can type CMD. And it's going to open up the command prompt. Now this is not a privileged command prompt. If you do that, again, it makes your screen gray, and it waits for this person to say yes, they can access that. So I kind of like that. It's got a little bit of security behind it. Now there are some weird things that I'm not wild about, but I want to show you. So this thing has a whole command palette over here. So you've got clipboard, so you can copy things between the machines. So block remote input. This actually works, and it freaks me out that this works. So here I can do stuff. So I can still move that window around. But if I go back here to the Windows side, I can't do anything. I can't click on this. So you've basically blocked the user from using their own machine. Sometimes this is handy. I have worked in desktop support for a long time, and you get people who want to help you, and they click, and you're trying to do something, and they click around, or they think, hey, I'll do something else while he's working, and they keep taking, focus away from what you're trying to do. So sometimes it's helpful to have that, but that definitely is something that could be abused, in my opinion. So I'm not super wild about it. but it's cool if you need it. So you can block remote input, and then you can do your work. Invite others. So if you have other people on your team, you can use this to go and say, hey, I need you to come look at this, and then of course it'll list them there because you're adding them to the screen viewing. Audio, which I'm not sure what this does. We'll have to test it. File transfer. So if I click that, it opens up the file browser. This is my file browser on my Linux machine, but it's showing up on top of my browser. So I'm not sure exactly what happens, but if you look back here, Windows doesn't show it, so it's definitely just in Firefox. But if I go grab like one of these files, it doesn't show me what it's doing. It shows me some toast messages over here, but I don't know where they went. So it's a little bit weird. I haven't figured that one out yet, but it looks like it's doing something. I'm just not sure what it's doing or where it's putting stuff, but it's not putting it on the desktop. I've verified that it's not there. So we'll figure that out. Control-Alt-Delete. I also not available for this session. So I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm on a virtual machine and Control-Alt-Delete won't work. Maybe the same thing for the file transfer. And we'll do this on a Linux machine as well. So there I can just disconnect from the remote session, and then so you can switch monitors. I've only got one monitor, but if they have multiple monitors, you can use this to switch monitors. You can say fit, and you see it kind of zooms things in. I'm just going to leave it like this. And then quality. So this one, so it sets to auto. So if you notice that it's just like too slow or too laggy, you can uncheck this, and I would say drop this guy down a little bit, and then try it again and see if it feels better. You know, it may speed up a little bit after it gets a chance to kind of get caught up, so that there's not so much lag. Sometimes that throws people off. And then down here, Windows session. So again, you can change what session you're looking at, and then it gives you connection information. So this one says that I'm actually relayed, which you'd expect. So just different information. But I mean, there's the control panel. There, I'm controlling a remote machine, and it's Windows, and I'm doing it from my Linux machine through a browser. And the server's running on Linux. You can run the server on Windows as well, but I'm running it on Linux on DigitalOcean. So I mean, I think this is an amazing product that's out there. It's open source, it's free. You could set it up today and get your business up and running if you're wanting to do remote desktop support, especially during these times where so many people are having to do, you know, kind of shelter at home, shelter in place, but you still need income. You still want to help people. You still want to do things. This is a really awesome option. So I hope you'll get out there and try it out. All right, I'm going to stop this section, and I'm going to show you here. We'll disconnect. There we go. We've disconnected. I'm back at the page where it wants to know, you know, what connection information do I have. I can just close the browser window as well, and this shows that I disconnected in the background from Windows, and they can close the application and it's done. There's no more connecting to this machine because they've gotten rid of it. So I'm gonna stop this segment, and I'll move to the next one where we're going to do the installation, and then we'll go in and actually reinstall the client here on Windows. We'll install a client on Linux and see how it all works. Okay, we're going to move forward here with remotely. So I'm going to do the installation now, and I want you guys to kind of know what's going on. I did receive an email back since I recorded the first segment you just watched from Jared here. He's a really cool guy and answered some of my questions that I had. So I've forked the repo. He's not interested in pull requests right now, but he is still doing work. So you can see that he just did some work 11 hours ago, which is awesome. So I forked it. I made a little bit of a change because there wasn't an ARM installer, but I haven't tested it yet. So we'll see if that works, but I wanted to see if you could do remote support on Raspberry Pis. So I went into his code and found where he creates his installers and added a section for ARM. And I built it last night, and we'll test it out here in a little bit. It may fail miserably, but we'll see. So first I want to go through just the server install with you guys. So this is the site, and basically when I give you the commands, and I'll have these in an article that you can also go to, and I'll link to that in the description as well. What I do is I go here to the releases section in GitHub, and of course you want to get that most recent release section. And if you go down here under assets, it's always going to be under assets for the actual applications or code that you want. There's always there's change logs and things like that you can keep track of. So when you go to the assets, you want to look, if you're running Linux, you want to look for this remote server install.sh. If you're running a Windows server, then you want this one that has .ps1 on it. But you just right click, cancel. I just want to right click, and I want to do a copy link location. It depends on the browser. It could be slightly different for Chrome, for Firefox, for Edge, but it's something like, copy the link somehow. Okay. Once you do that, you can go, and we're going to start creating our server. So I'm going to go over to DigitalOcean, and I'm going to use the $5 server. So I'm going to go droplet, and once it comes up, I'm just going to do the Ubuntu server. I'm going to leave it on 1804 for now. This software's been tested on 1804. That's what I ran before. Leave it on standard, and I'm going to click this little left arrow, click on $5. I'm going to move down. New York's fine. They do have some new servers that they've got up. VPC, I don't need any of that stuff right now. I am going to use my personal SSH keys there, and then we're going to give this thing a name. So if this is going to be for support, I'm going to call it support.opensourceisawesome.com. So let me just make sure I spelled everything right. Yes. And then we're going to just click on create. So we're going to let this create this droplet. While it's doing that, we can jump over here to our domain name server provider. So in my case, it's Hover. Yours could be GoDaddy, it could be Gandhi.net, it could be Namecheap, it doesn't matter. They should have a section where you can set DNS, so that's where I'm at, and I'm going to basically just add a DNS record. It may be slightly different process in each one, so just kind of learn how they work. I do want an A record, and I called it support. And then I'm going to go get that. I'm going to set this to 5 minutes. Now you may have to switch up some things on how fast it'll update DNS for your provider, but Hover just out of the box offers 5 minutes. It's usually really fast no matter what you set that to. I'm going to go back over here and DigitalOcean finish. So I'm just going to copy this IP address, and I'm going to paste it right in here. So we've kind of done 2 simple steps. 1, we created our server. 2, we've told our DNS service, hey, here's the domain name that I want, and here's the server that it needs to point to. Now we may have to wait a few minutes for this to update and propagate through the internet. So what we'll do is we'll open up a terminal, and we're just going to SSH in, and it's root on DigitalOcean, and we'll paste in that IP address. And yes, we trust it, and then it's going to check my SSH keys. And then I'm in. So first thing I always want to do is sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade -y. Now I'm logged in as root. I don't have to do sudo. It's just a habit. So if you don't do sudo when you're logged in as root, that's fine. It's a habit that I've got. It doesn't matter. It doesn't care if you do it. So it's fine. This thing's going to update. It's going to run through all of the upgrades and things like that are out there for the 1804 version since this image was created. So it'll take a couple of minutes, and then I'll come back. So when I get to this step, I almost always just take the defaults. This is just a plain Jane Ubuntu 1804 server. There's no reason that I shouldn't just take the default, so I just hit tab to get to OK, and then I hit enter. And then you'll get it a second time sometimes, so just again hit tab and make it sure it's OK, and then hit enter, and it'll continue on with the update. Once it finishes, then we just do sudo reboot, let that server reboot, and then we'll log back in here in a minute, and we'll actually use our domain name to do that. So we're going to give it about 15 or 20 seconds, but then we'll just log right back in. SSH root at, and we did support.opensourceisawesome.com. Yes, we trust it. That's a good sign. That means that it found the endpoint that you want, and now you can see we're logged in. So now that we're logged in and we've rebooted, we just need to go and do a couple of things. We've got to download the remotely installer for Linux, and then we've got to change the permissions to it to be executable, and then we'll run it. So it's really not that complex. Got a couple of commands we need to run here, so I've got those things out here. And we will go get this command. And those notes that I'm showing I will put out in an article on another page for everybody to get access to if you want that. So we're going to use wget, and I did make the terminal bigger. Hopefully if you're watching on a phone or something, that makes it easier for you to see what I'm typing. So if I do ls, you see we've got the installer installed, or we've got the installer downloaded. So now I'm going to do chmod plus x and then the name of the file. That just makes it executable. Now I can do /remotely server install.sh. This is going to start our installation process, and we'll get prompted a few times throughout the process. So as we do, I'll stop and tell you, hey, this is what we're doing and this is what it's asking for. Other than that, I'll try to kind of fast forward through it so you don't have to sit for, however long it takes to do the install. So first thing it wants is what path should the files be added to. You can just basically say exactly what it says there. It's not a default to that, so you need to type it /var/www/remotely. It's fine to just type that out, then just hit enter. It wants to know what our domain name is going to be, so we set that a while ago. So support.opensourceisawesome.com. Now there's a couple of things that happen with this particular piece. It's going to use this to set up the server. It's also going to use this to set up your Let's Encrypt certificates. So you need to make sure that this server can be reached from the outside internet. So if you're running this on your home server, you need to make sure that port 80 and port 443 are forwarded through to the server that you're running this on. It's going to install Nginx. It's going to install a few things for you that do it does a lot of the work in the background in the script for us, which is great. So make sure you type this correctly and make sure that there's access like that. Once you've got it typed in correctly and you feel good, hit enter, and it's going to start an update and an install process, and it's going to run through this for a few minutes, and eventually it'll get to a point where it's going to prompt us again, and I'll stop. Until then, I'll fast forward through the install. Okay, we're at our next prompt. So this is the one for the Let's Encrypt cert. So it wants your email. So just put in your email. It's going to ask if you agree to their terms of service, which just put A and then hit enter. And then it says, are you willing to share your email address with the Electronic Frontier Foundation? If you've already done this once, you don't have to say yes. You can say no. You don't have to say yes at all, honestly, but it's nice because they are providing this freely to you. I'm going to say no. I've already shared my email address with them 100 times. And then it wants to know what domains do you want to have covered under this Let's Encrypt certificate. So I've only got one option here, so I'll hit 1. It's going to go forward. It's going to start doing the challenges and doing verification. So now it's asking, do you want to automatically forward any requests on port 80 to port 443, so the unsecure port to the secure port? And generally the answer would be yes, so I'm going to put 2. I want it to redirect automatically. And then it's done. So this is all finished. The install's finished. That even me sitting here, that only took about a minute, maybe a little bit more. So we're going to go, and we're actually going to go to our site. So we're going to go over here to a new tab. And here's our new remotely site. So I'm going to say register. I'm going to put in my email address. And then it just picks a really long password there. You should put a really long secure password for software like this, but just be aware. So we're going to register, and I'll just say never save, it's fine. Okay, so we're back to the interface that we're all pretty familiar with, and I'll show you a few extra things about the software that I didn't show when we initially did kind of the setup and everything. So first of all, this is going to be a new address. So if you have a client who you've had on an old address, there is a way inside of the client software to change which server they're pointing to. So they don't have to keep reinstalling the remote access software. It's really there. They just need to basically change the URL. So you need to provide that to them. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. So there's chat features and things like that. There's chat functions out on the internet that you can use to communicate with people and send them the information they need so they can just copy and paste it versus trying to type it in. But sometimes you just need to be patient while you tell them how to type things in. We've got our support.OpenSourceIsAweomse.com server set up. And as I promised, I was going to show you exactly how to go and set this up on a Windows machine. It's really super straightforward. So we're going to open up our browser here. So I'm remoted. So I'm remoted into a machine that's out in my office. And then in that machine, it's a Linux machine, I am then running VirtualBox to have Windows. So we're getting Firefox opened up here. Let's, oh wow, that's really sticking, isn't it? Let's open it back up there. There we go. Get Firefox going. So I apologize for all the weirdness with like the Inception stuff going here. But we're going to go to support.OpenSourceIsAweomse.com. And there we are. So we're at our remote desktop. Now again, your client user doesn't have to log in. You can just send them to the downloads page and tell them, hey, for your system, I need you to download X, Y, or Z here. But for now, we're on Windows 64, so I'm going to click on the exe. And I'm going to say save file. Now again, it depends on their browser as to how that little workflow happens, but it's pretty simple. So here it is. So of course, depending on where it goes and where they're at, you'll tell them how to open it up. So I'm going to say, you know, click on this thing. We want it to run. It says Windows protected your PC. Okay, that's fine. Just it gives you just this thing which is closed. You know, they're tricky, right? Like, hey, we don't want you to do this. I don't know why they do that. It's painful, but click on that and then you can say allow, run anyway. Once you get that, they're going to get the UAC prompt, so tell them click on yes please, and then you can actually have them just close down the browser. This part's running in front of the browser even though it's kind of hard to see there, so we can right click and say close. And you can see this is running an installer. So the first time it runs, it takes a little bit longer because it's going to go out and get all of the .NET Core things that it needs to be able to run everything. The second time that they run it, so basically each time they click on this same, when they look for remotely in the start menu, it's going to do this same process, but it's much faster the second time. This first time it's going to go out and grab a bunch of things that it needs in order to run this, and then it'll pop up with the actual program. So I'll let this run. And there it is. So this is what it does the first time you run it. So you need to tell them, hey, in that blank, you need to type in whatever your domain is, of course. And if you can have something shorter than I've got that's easier to type, it might be good, but this is fine for our purposes. So it's going to try to reach our server. It's going to go out there and say, oh, I found it, and it's going to get a number. So if they don't ever get a number, they may have mistyped something. And if they ever need to re-enter that, there's this little gear icon. If they click on that, you'll see they get change server, elevate to admin, and elevate to service. So they can do a few things, especially once you're connected. So here's the number we need. It's 387-075-619. Now they can copy that number. I don't know what they're going to do with it. So if they have you on chat, they could paste it into chat for you so that you could then take it and copy it. I'll just come back and look at it. 387-075-619. And I'll go down here to my main machine where I've got everything running, and I'm going to go to remote session. Here we go. And we're going to do 387-019. I don't know, I'm probably getting it wrong. Let's check it. 075-619. 075-619. My memory's just not as good as it used to be. 075-619. and then we hit connect. Now it's going to tell us like, hey, I'm trying to connect, and that's because it popped up the prompt. Yes, I want to allow you to connect. And then it's going to say, hey, this person's trying to do this thing. Do you want to allow them to do this? And they can just click on allow access. It could be private networks, could be public networks. You could have them check the box before they click, but I'm just going to click on allow access. It's going to take just a second, and then we can go back, and now we can see their desktop just like before. Now we've got control. So we can click on this thing. Again, I can't click this because I'm not running this in a way that I can do that. Let's see if the user can do that for us. No, so they can't elevate to admin yet. Oh, let's see, maybe if they highlight me. No, still can't elevate to admin. So I showed you last time. Let me go back to where I'm the support person. I have this thing. So this only works on Windows, by the way, and I'll show you in a minute. So I can stop them from doing input. So they can't do any input. Okay, but they can also stop you from doing input if you haven't done that. So I'll show you what's going on. So right now, I can grab this window and I can move it around. And it's a little bit laggy because it's going through a machine that's going to a virtual machine. But as the user, so I'm back on the user screen here, I'm the client, I can click that box. Now if I go back to my remote session, you'll notice I can't click on this. I can't click here, I can't do anything. So they've basically stopped me from having input by unchecking the box by my name. So you can invite other people, and if you just want to make sure that they're just viewing only and not doing stuff, you can uncheck the box so they don't have control over those things. So that's pretty nice. It's a pretty cool feature. I really like that. Just wanted to show that real quick, but there we go. We're connected to them, so I'm going to stay connected to that one. Now I'm going to go back, and I'm actually going to kind of minimize that, I guess you'd say. And I'm going to go and I'm going to download this for Linux. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to support. OpenSourceIsAweomse.com. And again, you tell the user, go to downloads please, and click on the one that says Linux x64, and we're going to click on that, and it's going to ask if they want to save the file. Yes. And then you can see the download happening up here now. It's a little bit different on Linux, so we're going to let that go. It's probably running a little slow because I'm running the remote desktop session to the other server, but it's going 3.5, 4 megabytes a second, so not terribly slow. Alright, so once that downloads, you can have them close the browser, and it's almost always going to go to their downloads folder. So if you have them go to their downloads folder, if you try to click this right now, it's not going to do anything. It's not executable yet. So on Linux, you have to make a file executable. So if you tell them right click on it for me, go down to this option that says properties, left click, it's going to open up. Tell them go to the permissions tab. Up at the top, look for one that says permissions. And then look for a checkbox that says allow executing file. They need to check that box, and then they can just close the permissions. Now they can double click this program. So when you double click it, you see it pops up just like before. It says failed to connect to server. That's okay. We're going to go and change the server. So this is where we use this little box. And you can see I had the old one, so I deleted it, but I re-downloaded it. It kept my settings. So we're going to get rid of that. We're going to say support.opensourceisawesome.com. And it couldn't connect to my other server because, as I told you before, I destroyed it. So now it's got a new number. There's our connection number. So let's go back here and let's go to my tab. I'm guessing if I open up another window, and then go to remote control. Yeah, now. And then let's get this number. 0822, not 872. Again, paying attention is always helpful. There we go. Now it's prompting me. Yes, I want to do that. And then if I go back, now I've got control of their Linux machine. And on this, so on Linux, I can click on this button, and you'll notice I can still do things. So you can't cut off their access on Linux, which I way prefer. I don't like somebody being able to cut me off from doing stuff. I don't like the idea that someone else could do that either. So just be aware, this does not work for a Linux machine. Some of these things may work, some may not. It may be operating system dependent for sure, but just be aware that that may be an issue for you if that's something you're wanting to do for some reason. I think they can cut you off from accessing the machine though. So let me click this. Let's see if it does do that. So now, yeah, so they can cut you off, but you can't cut them off, that's kind of the way I prefer it, honestly. The client should always have the final control. Alright, so there you go. You can actually bring up two different machines, and you can control them, it looks like. I just turned off access. Let's find out. So we had two machines open, and if you have access and the client hasn't cut you off, you can control two different machines in two different tabs, which is really nice. So this is, again, a great piece of software. I also added my wife so that she's an administrator, and she can also provide remote support. So I'm inviting her, and the way that you do that is you basically click over here, and when you click on invite someone, you'll see a little message pop up on the web, and it says that it's been copied to the clipboard. The invite's been copied to the clipboard. Then you use another system to send them a chat message basically with that link. So it copies the link, you send it to them. So she's now clicked on the link, and again you see the prompt that comes up. So this is my machine out in my office. This is just my web browser, so I can drag it down, and you can see back here in the background I've got the machine. I'm remoted into it back there out there in the office. So I can just minimize that out of the way. And then back here is the messages, and I sent her a message to have that code. So it does not just let them in automatically. You still have to allow them in even though you're sitting there. So I'm going to just make this big again. I'm going to click on yes, and that should allow her in. So now we see that she shows up and I'm on the screen, and we can both see each other. So now she should be able to take the mouse and just open something on the screen or drag that window around. And it's a little bit laggy, so it may take a second for it to show up. Maybe she could open up Firefox. Okay, this is my mouse, so you can see that she's actually the one taking the actions, and she's logged in remotely there. And now she's opening up Firefox. So I'm going to bring back up the main screen here. So now if I click the little checkbox, she should not be able to access anything or click on anything. Give it a try, see if you can close something. See if you can close Firefox there. Nothing. Okay, so she's not able to do that, so I'm gonna recheck the box, and now she should be able to close Firefox. And there it goes. So you can have multiple people in here doing remote sessions as well with this remotely software. So it's really fantastic. So there you go. A little bit more about how this works and how it functions. It's really great software. I did try to make some adjustments to try to build this for ARM, for Linux ARM, so that I could run it on a Raspberry Pi. I've not had any success so far. I'm not a .NET Core developer by any means, so I'm just kind of going with what I see that the original developer has done, and I've tried to do a few builds, and I'm getting successful builds. I think I have a build where I might be able to actually run the server part on an ARM machine, but not the client side, which is what I'd be interested in really. But I think it'd be cool to run the server on a Raspberry Pi 4 also to see how it performs, since it's like a $5 droplet on DigitalOcean. So I'll keep working on that, and if I do, I'll make an update video about that. But I hope you like remotely. I think this is a really cool project. If you like this video, like, subscribe, let me know how I can improve in the future, and otherwise I'll talk to you next time.